Okay, so I wanted to make a video, and I can try and praise it, but chances are I'm not going to get everything I want to say into one video. So either I'll praise it or I'll make more videos down the line. As it's just going to be about religion versus spirituality. In this instance, Christianity versus spirituality. My reasons: I've always been spiritual in my beliefs. I've never wanted to believe in this terrifying God figure as portrayed in Christianity. My reasons for making it really specific about Christianity versus the New Age are that I wanted to try to marry the two together. I was quite happy on my spiritual journey. I've had some lovely experiences, and I thought, you know what, if I'm going to explore all of these different things in the New Age and in spiritual circles and whatnot, and different healing modalities, then I should really give Jesus a bit of a chance as well, right? Because he's just the most famous God or person. Prefer to think of him more as a godlike figure, in the history of humankind. So I can't really just push that to one side just because I don't like the darkness that goes with it, because there's so much anger and power that goes with the Bible that is, really quite startling and makes me quite uncomfortable. So I thought, okay, if Jesus stands for good, absolutely, then there shouldn't be a problem in marrying together Christianity and spirituality. Of course, I found it intensely problematic and really, 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 truly difficult. So I'm making this video as well in the hopes that maybe someone passing who might see it has had the same sort of dilemma, or can maybe shed some light on this with their thoughts as well. I'm genuinely interested. So my search started off by thinking, okay, so Jesus then, this good man, this good godlike being, got me into sort of Gnosticism, and I thought, okay, so he's really into loving everybody and being very kind and compassionate. So to me it seemed to be an absolute divorce from the Old Testament and the New Testament. I thought, okay, we can safely discount the Old Testament, that's something else, because okay, and then the Old Testament is so difficult to stomach, isn't it? You've got sacrifice, you've got human sacrifice, for goodness sake. You've got a God who doesn't like his creation and decides to just wipe the whole thing off the face of the planet with a big flood. You've got problems, in other words, you've got great big problems. Now, I am just a mere human being I haven't read the Bible, so I've only got a tiny understanding of all this anyway. But at first I thought, okay, so it should be fine. So we've got the divorce, I can just jettison the Old Testament, say that Jesus is born of, he's definitely a supernatural deity from what I can work out. There's some interesting articles and things that have arisen lately about his sort of polymorphism, the idea that he can appear to different people as different aspects of himself. So some people will see a young man, some people might see an old man, some people might see a lady even. He can appear how he wants to appear, which strikes me that he's either supernatural, or that, we're talking some sort of alien species. And why not? Is it so ludicrous to think that maybe life was seeded here, or given a little boost, perhaps, by an alien culture, species? In this case, the lack of missing link, could it have been that they did sort of intercede at that point and just give us a gentle boost and then disappear and just sort of watch us and see what happens? So at first it seemed relatively simple. I thought, right, fine, we can do that. That's all okay. And then I made the mistake of watching YouTube videos, which has led me down an altogether different path. And it's the reason I'm focusing on Christianity. Because there are so many videos of people who either may be atheist, maybe a different religion altogether, Muslim, or just, didn't have an opinion perhaps, etc. Suddenly having a conversion moment or a series of conversion moments, and they're all over YouTube. There are thousands of these videos, which severely problematized my search, and it made it problematic because they're not all fluffy encounters. It's not all fluffy Jesus, as Doreen Virtue would say, teddy bear Jesus. No, some of these people have deep, dark visions. There's plenty of Armageddon visions if you want to view them for a bit of cheer. There's a heck of a lot out there. And my search was also perhaps intensified by a couple of people who were New Age having a conversion and becoming Christians. So I thought, whoa, what's going on? Try and look into this a bit more. And one of them was Doreen Virtue, who, although she was raised a Christian Scientist, so she always had that sort of core integral love of Jesus anyway, but she was very much a New Age lady, giving her angel card readings and things like this. And she did a complete 180, and she was in church one day and just saw Jesus, had a vision of him, and that started her conversion. And then the second person who preceded her, I think, was Stephen Bankars, and he again was very heavily into the New Age. There's another lady whose name I don't know, whose channel I've been following again, who was New Age and had a conversion too. So that's a big deal, right? I mean, these are people entrenched in their sort of spiritual values, happy, no reason to convert really, but they've had these absolutely supernatural experiences, absolutely, and very real, very real to them. And some of the experiences are very, very beautiful. They experienced Jesus with this infinite love. So it's absolutely beautiful, but time and time again you'll hear the same thing, because I've been watching quite a few of these videos now, and you'll hear the same thing, which is that they know absolutely that he is the way, that he is their God. People just sort of fall on their face and pray for hours sometimes. They just get this absolute sense of certainty. The troubling aspect of that too is that some people have visions of hell. Some people are told in no uncertain terms, what is wanted from us under Christianity is very, very different from spirituality. So some people are told pretty much, obedience seems key. It's humbling yourself, being like a child again, confessing your sins, and I don't have a problem with the idea of those sort of things, but I guess I do. Well, I clearly have a problem or I wouldn't be making this video. I clearly have a problem, but my problem really is what seems to be required of us from Christianity, going by these videos, and what seems to be required of us with spirituality. Two entirely different things. So, and it's all problematized. I mean, there are so many problems within Christianity anyway. Jesus says that he is the way, and that no one shall go through the Father but through him. Sounds simple, right? So why then the need for Mother Mary to intercede, which is exactly what the Catholic Church does. They go via her to go to God. And they still love Jesus too, but they call on Mother Mary. And the Pope himself allegedly has said that it can be very problematic going to Jesus by yourself, that you need somebody to intercede on your behalf. So I think his suggestion would obviously be go find a priest who'll do it for you. So it's become quite a problematic thing now, and with Christianity, what seems to be wanted? Well, from the visions that people have and the stories that they then relay afterwards, it seems to be very much about obedience. Be obedient to God. Follow the commandments. Spread the word. It isn't just enough to follow, you have to spread the word as well. And obedience. You don't have thoughts of your own necessarily anymore. You know, once the conversion is done, what happens to these people? They pick up a Bible, they read the Bible, they say that's the only book you ever need. And they all can become a little bit fanatical about it. Not without humour. There's a lovely Cockney lass whose name I don't know, who I came across again on YouTube, who is absolutely delightful in her sort of, I wouldn't say sermons, but you know, when she's preaching about Jesus and everything else and what's happened to her. And again, I use the word preaching lightly, but she does it in a way that's, you know, laced with humour. She's still herself. She hasn't become a robot, as some people can seem to do, some evangelical types. So she's still her, she's still there, she's still, you know, very much who she was before, but she's very passionate about following Jesus. So then there seems to be a sense that if you give yourself to God and Jesus, you lose your sense of self completely. It seems to be, you know, if you're going to go down an evangelical route, if you're going to ask Jesus into your life, that is, there are many Christians out there who have no personal encounters whatever, and they don't need them, and that suits them. However, if you're going to do the thing, you know, which is to ask him into your life, then there appears to be a mega transformation for most people. Not for everyone, I'd say, but for an awful lot of people. And you only have to just do a search and just see all these videos for yourself. It's extraordinary. So it's like you give up your free will completely and you get everyone else to sign on the dotted line to become Christians too. And I guess I have a bit of a problem with that. My thoughts are, I used to think, okay, so what if you don't? What if you don't? And you're a good person and you die and you haven't known Jesus because you didn't quite know what to believe. Isn't that enough? And I've heard from one person who said, well, yes, if you think about the people who existed before Jesus, tribes, people and whatnot, then if they're good people, etc., then yes, they go to the right place. It would be fine. They go up there, you know, up to heaven. And you go, okay, good, okay, so that's okay then, right? Well, one person in their vision said that God had said to them, it isn't enough if you do good works. If you didn't know me, if you didn't have a relationship with me, then it isn't enough. Have to have a relationship with me. Otherwise, going down there, down to hell, okay? That fiery lake that nobody really wants to think about because, and I have a huge problem with that. Of course I do. Most people do. The idea that you could be a relatively nice person, but if you haven't actively sought this God, this strange character that we don't really know much about, if you haven't actively sought a relationship with him in your life, even if you're a good person, he's going to put you into a fiery lake for all eternity, and there's nothing he can do about it. There's a real sense, often I've seen people have these visions and they say Jesus was crying, he was very sorrowful, he wanted to save people but he couldn't because they didn't have that relationship with him. Now obviously two things. Firstly, the validity of their claims and their visions. They all seem to have these massive, huge visions. Are they of the same source? I don't know. Secondly, an all-knowing God, okay, that can do anything, is unable to rescue people from hell if they don't have a personal relationship with him. I have a huge question mark over that too. Maybe someone out there can help me on that one. The idea that this God cannot, out of mercy, pluck people out who are pretty good people, because hell was allegedly initially designed for demons and not us. Why can't he pluck us out? Is he to then subscribe to a bigger law that we don't know about? He himself then would not be all powerful. Surely he would be under the influence of something else, something greater than him, that he cannot change even if he wanted to, which also raises an interesting question, interesting to me at least. So there's that. And I'm like, whoa. And again, there's this sense of fear and there's this sense of power. People who meet Jesus and God, and they can be absolutely changed, but there can be such a sense of power and such a sense of fear and such a sense of beauty and love, all sort of intermingled, because it's such a big experience. And again, I have a problem with the idea that fear should even be a thing. Fear, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't be part of a conversion process. Surely we'd convert from love, from a place of love. That's much healthier, right? Because is it any wonder we've had so many fights and wars over religion when our very souls are at stake if we get it wrong? You know, not just for a short time in this lake of fire. It's eternity. People have a lot invested in getting it right, and there's a lot of fear involved, which can lead to an awful lot of ridiculous action, such as warfare, and not allowing other people to have their view. Because how can both be right? Especially if people who have visions of Jesus are told or believe his is the only way, which they do. Now, not everyone who meets Jesus and or God has these sort of hellfire, apocalyptic, sign on the dotted line stuff going on. One man just had very beautiful testimony of a near-death experience. He'd had a hell of a time. He'd been through hell in his life. He'd been involved in a car accident. It had claimed his wife and one of his children. And when he came back, into his body after his near-death experience, he was, I think, almost paralysed. He was in a terrible state, hell of a state. Or just really beaten up, and it took months of rehab to get him even halfway okay again. But he had a very beautiful experience. He experienced God and Jesus just as very loving beings. Nothing was required of him. And I found that interesting and very heartwarming. Nothing was required. He didn't have to sign on the dotted line, become a Christian, get baptised. Otherwise you're going to hell. So this is the thing about Christianity as well. It just wants to propagate itself. Sign here, sign up, save your soul, save other people's souls, save them all. Now, if that's true, it makes you think, what on earth kind of system are we born into? Who are these gods? What kind of terrible system just requires our absolute acquiescence? It doesn't seem to require us to think for ourselves. There are some people who say, women are perhaps a bit subservient in the Bible, and some people say that role is correct and that was what God wanted and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I don't quite like that so much, Spirituality, on the other hand, what's required? Just show up to life with love. Just have love for fellow humans and animals. Just have compassion and kindness and respect for animals, for humans, for nature, for God, as you see God. Holding those qualities as much as you can, because you're human and you will make mistakes, and that's okay. But as far as I can work out, that's the sort of crux of the spiritual journey. And some people meditate to help. I find meditation helpful. and pray as well, and other modalities, healing modalities and things like this. To me, spirituality goes hand in hand with nature and connectedness and oneness and Buddhism and things like this. I find these all very beautiful concepts. And the indigenous people on our land. And I see Christianity very much as coming with the encroachment upon the indigenous people, because of course they all came along and converted people and stuff like this. So I can't help but see Christians as being a bit of the bad guys, although their intent was good, and although maybe Jesus was good. I don't know. I don't know what's sprung up around him. I don't know why the Vatican is so powerful, for instance, when that seems to go absolutely against what Jesus perhaps would have stood for. So to me then, I've got a lot of questions. As I say, they can't all be answered or even covered in this video. This is just talking about some of my current problems that I have trying to come and marry Christianity with spirituality. And it doesn't mean I'll stop searching, but the search itself is quite difficult. I like the Gnostic view. That seems to marry them nicely. But what are these visions that people are having? What are they? And it even forecast in the Bible that there would be a time when, your sons and daughters will prophesy and things like this. And allegedly little kids are even having visions of God and they have Abba. And there are videos on YouTube about that as well. Could this just be something about the collective consciousness? Because we've got this story so firmly entrenched, could it actually have manifest in a way that is so real and palpable? Could Christianity itself have been manipulated by a group of entities, aliens, something like that? Could it have been born from another race, off planet, for reasons of control? Because obviously with Christianity, control is very much a feature. You bow before God and Jesus. You don't argue when you have these visions of them, apparently, and you just give up most of your personality, most of yourself, in pursuit of Bible reading and reading the Bible to other people. So it raises questions. What sort of system might we be in? Could Christianity itself be a manipulation? Because before I watched the videos about the visions and everything, I used to think, well, Christianity, perhaps it's been mistranslated, perhaps it's been manipulated, The visions again problematise my being able to say these things very easily. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts out there. I'd love to stay on a spiritual path. I'd absolutely love to. That feels so sort of woven into who I am. And I love it. I want to go back to it. And I want to be able to think that somehow it can meet this religion. Can it? I don't know. There again, the reason, I don't know if I've mentioned this already, the reason I chose Christianity, because Jesus is so, famous, etc. But I went looking for videos of people who had visions of Muhammad and things like this, and I couldn't find them. Muhammad appears to be a very distant god that doesn't appear to people in visions, whereas Jesus and God seem very accessible. But to what end, to the loss of your own soul, I don't know, or your own very self. I was also troubled by one man's vision that I saw on YouTube. He had had a vision where he was plunged into hell and to show him the importance of, I call it signing on the dotted line, signing up to become a Christian, doing whatever you need to do to be a Christian. And he allegedly saw Buddha in this sort of hellfire. Now, I immediately was thinking, whoa, okay. If I had ever thought that maybe I could marry religion with spirituality, you know, that makes it even more troublesome. Because someone like the Buddha, who has brought so much goodness upon our planet through his meditation techniques, he has brought so much peace. Okay, how on earth, how in God's name could he be in a place like that? So this is why I'm tending towards thinking that there could be, it's entirely possible to me that there could be some form of manipulation so great that people can have these visions and feel as though it's absolutely the most real thing in the world, but it might not be. These are my thoughts at the moment. Managed to do it in 25 minutes, which is quite good. So I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, anyone who stumbles across this, if you've got any views, please do let me know, because it's a search and I'm still searching. So anyway, have a good day.